Hello everyone, welcome to a Joseki lesson on pincers. So this is an introduction that is for everyone, including beginners and amateurs who haven't thought this through. So after black's approach here to the start point, white has 6 options if it wants to play a pincer. But of course the most common pincer is probably at A, this what we call a low one-space pincer, right? Because it's one space away from the black stone and it's lower on the third line. And B would be called a high one space pincer, C would be a low two space pincer, D would be a high two space pincer, E would be a low three space pincer, and F would be a high three space pincer. So you see these 6 pincers theoretically, and I could break them down into multiple lessons on each of these pincers, but that's very inefficient and it could potentially be misleading. I just think it's unnecessarily complicated for beginners to have 400 or 500 variations on these pincers, because there are certain tricks that you can do either as white or black in this situation. First of all, why does white want to pincer in this situation? And the goal usually is pretty simple. So first of all, white doesn't want black to play on the upper side, doesn't want black to gain on the upper side, right? If you play something like this, right, this will be a Joseki that I'll teach in the next lesson, right? This is a very basic Joseki, and after this Joseki, black doesn't really have a whole lot of influence here. So that's white's basic hope, and white is willing to achieve some influence here on the upper side in exchange for the corner, which is really valuable, right? So that's part of what white is trying to achieve here. By playing any of these pincers, white is really preventing black from having a comfortable extension here on the upper side. But when black, for instance, approaches from this side, white can also consider the 3-space pincer, which doesn't put a whole lot of pressure on this black stone, but it kind of preserves white's influence on the left side here. And it works in tandem with number 2 here on the corner, right? So this is why sometimes 3-space pincers are played. The reason why I believe beginners, especially beginners, and most amateurs do not get into the complications on the differences between all these pincer moves is because no matter what white does, black has a few fixed options, right? One fixed option, one very easy option that I would recommend to everyone, including beginners, is to take the corner, is to come into the 3-3 point as the next move. No matter where the pincer is, black can come into the corner, right? It always works. It's always available, especially at the beginning of a game when the board is empty. Always a good move to just take the corner territory and see what happens next, right? Black will not be put at a disadvantage as long as it plays some kind of a Joseki after number 7. That is why if you're black in this situation, if you're approaching your opponent's corner start point, you do not have to fear the pincer because you can always move into the corner no matter where the pincer is, right? So that's hopefully reassuring for all beginners. Lightly approach and do not fear any of the pincers because there's relatively simple Josekis available after number 7 at the 3-3 point. Other than the 3-3 point, black can also do a double approach from the other side. Either the low approach here or the one space approach, the high approach here, right? So this will also lead to complications, right? It kind of puts some pressure on white. White will probably try to put some pressure on either of these 2 stones this way, and black still has a chance at taking the corner. So this is just a summary. I'm not gonna get into any complicated variations here, but just an idea, right? Double approach. And the third idea would be to jump out. So this doesn't necessarily work when number 6 is far away. So the most common one would be the low one space pincer, and this works, right? You might see something like this in amateur games, and black kind of counter pincers number 6, putting some pressure on number 6, and this will be a fight. It's a relatively mild fight because both sides can kind of move toward the center, but it will be a fight because neither group is settled. Neither group can find 2 eyes on the lower side, right? So this is one way that the fight will play out after white's pincer. So black can always consider jumping out. Of course, there are other very basic Josekis might be a little outdated. Some Joseki books still introduce this Joseki, something like this, right? Just jumping out here and counter pincer, right? Putting some pressure on the pincering stone. And that's jumping out. And that's mostly it, actually. These are the 3 available moves, right? The 3-3 point, the double approach, either here or here, and jumping out. These are the 3 approaches that always works for black in this situation. And the most straightforward Josekis would be the 3-3 point and number 7, which I'll introduce in the next couple of videos. Or situationally, if white plays a high 3-space approach, this is not a whole lot of pressure on number 5. Black also has this move, potentially. And if white is really close, which is a very common pincer again, black potentially has this move. So I'm not sure if I'll get to all the Josekis, but I'll cover some of the most basic variations, because the bottom line, again, is for white to prevent black from having a comfortable extension on the upper side. That's white's goal here. And for black, if you really want to play it safe, play an efficient Joseki, always just take the corner, especially for beginners. And once you get stronger, if you're curious, you can study some of these Josekis, the double approach, pretty interesting Joseki. And if you enjoy fighting, just jump out and counter pincer, start some kind of a fight. And of course, once you start fighting, I will not cover it in my Joseki lessons. You just need to fight it out and have fun. So that's it for an introduction to the pincering moves and potential responses. Please stay tuned for the next few videos where I'll introduce some of the most basic moves after white's pincer. Thank you for watching.